In the year 9 AD, somewhere deep inside the dark and endless forests of Germania, an entire Roman army was slowly being erased from existence. These were not inexperienced soldiers. They were elite legions of the most powerful empire the world had ever known. Men who had conquered Gaul, crushed rebellions, and marched across continents without fear. Yet here, surrounded by towering trees, heavy rain, and unseen enemies, their shields became useless, their formations broke apart, and panic spread through the ranks. By the time the forest fell silent, nearly 20,000 Roman soldiers lay dead, their commander had taken his own life, and Rome itself was left in shock. This disaster was so devastating that Roman emperors would later whisper the name of the place in fear, the Teutoburg Forest. At the center of this catastrophe stood one man, a man Rome trusted, trained, and honored as one of its own. His name was Arminius. Born a Germanic noble, he was taken to Rome as a young man, where he learned the language of the empire, mastered its military discipline, and earned the rank of a Roman officer. To the Romans, Arminius was a loyal ally, a symbol of successful Roman control over the Germanic tribes. But beneath the armor and titles, Arminius remained a son of Germania. He watched as Rome sought not just to rule his homeland, but to erase its identity. What followed was not a rebellion fueled by rage, but a carefully planned act of war, one built on patience, deception, and deep understanding of the enemy. This is the story of how a single warrior used Rome's own power against it, and forever changed the course of European history. Arminius did not rise as a warrior through brute strength alone. His greatest weapon was knowledge. As a young noble of the Cherusci tribe, he was taken to Rome as a hostage, a common Roman practice meant to secure loyalty from conquered peoples. But Rome did more than hold him, they shaped him. Arminius learned Latin, adopted Roman customs, and trained under the disciplined system that had conquered the known world. He marched with Roman legions, studied their formations, and absorbed their belief that no enemy could stand against Roman order. By the time he returned to Germania, Arminius was no longer just a tribal warrior. He was a Roman officer, trusted by commanders and respected by soldiers. To the Roman governor Publius Quinctilius Varus, Arminius was invaluable. Varus had been sent to Germania to transform a wild frontier into a Roman province. Roads were built, taxes imposed, and Roman law enforced upon tribes that had never known centralized rule. Varus believed resistance had been crushed, that Germania was already tamed. Arminius played his role perfectly, serving as an advisor and interpreter, reinforcing Varus's confidence. But behind this loyalty was a different purpose. Arminius saw how Roman rule stripped his people of their traditions and freedom. The tribes were divided, suspicious of one another, and vulnerable. If they were ever to resist Rome, it had to be now, and it had to be done with precision. Quietly, Arminius began to unite the Germanic tribes. This was no easy task. The tribes had old rivalries and little reason to trust one another. But Arminius spoke not as a conqueror, but as a protector. He warned them that Rome would not stop at taxes and roads. It would erase their way of life entirely. His words carried weight, not just because of his noble blood, but because he knew the enemy intimately. He could tell them how Rome fought, how it marched, and how it bled. Slowly, alliances formed in the shadows of the forest. In the late summer of 9 AD, Arminius made his move. He approached Varus with urgent news. A rebellion had broken out among distant tribes. The situation, he claimed, required immediate action. Varus trusted him completely. Ignoring warnings from other advisors, Varus ordered 3 legions, around 20,000 men, along with their families, servants, and baggage trains, to march through unfamiliar forest terrain. The Roman army moved slowly, stretched across narrow paths, vulnerable and exposed. Rain poured relentlessly, turning the ground into mud and weakening morale. The soldiers believed they were marching to suppress a minor uprising. They had no idea they were walking into a carefully laid ambush. As the Romans advanced deeper into the Teutoburg Forest, the attack began. Germanic warriors emerged suddenly from the trees, hurling spears and stones before disappearing back into the undergrowth. There was no open battlefield, no clear enemy line. Roman formations designed for flat terrain and open combat fell apart. Shields became heavy, armor restrictive. The forest favored the hunters, not the legionaries. Panic spread as supply lines broke and communication collapsed. Every step forward felt like a step into death. For 3 days, the nightmare continued. The Germans struck relentlessly, choosing when and where to fight, retreating before the Romans could respond. The legions tried to regroup, but exhaustion, injuries, and fear took their toll. The rain-soaked bowstrings and rusted weapons. Roman discipline, once their greatest strength, was useless in the chaos of the forest. Varus, wounded and realizing the scale of the disaster, made a final decision. Rather than be captured, he fell upon his own sword. His officers followed, leadership vanished, and with it, any hope of recovery. By the end, the Roman army was annihilated. Eagles of the legions, sacred symbols of Roman honor, were captured. Survivors were enslaved or sacrificed. When news reached Rome, the shock was immense. Emperor Augustus was said to have wandered his palace, crying out, "Varus, give me back my legions!" Rome did not just lose soldiers that day, it lost its belief in invincibility. The aftermath reshaped history. Rome abandoned its ambitions beyond the Rhine River. Germania would never become a Roman province. Arminius had secured freedom for his people, but victory came at a cost. The alliances he forged began to fracture. Tribal leaders grew suspicious of his power. Internal conflicts weakened unity, and years later Arminius was assassinated by rivals within his own people. He died not on the battlefield, but in political betrayal. Yet his legacy endured. Roman historians, even in defeat, acknowledged his brilliance. They called him a barbarian, but they feared him as a commander. Centuries later, Arminius would be remembered as Hermann, a symbol of resistance and identity. He was not an emperor, nor a king of an empire. He was a warrior who understood his enemy so completely that he turned the greatest military machine in history into dust beneath the trees. Arminius proved that power alone does not decide history. Knowledge, patience, and courage can change the fate of nations. His victory in the Teutoburg Forest was not just a battle, it was a message that echoed across time. Even the mightiest empire can fall if it underestimates the land, the people, and the man who knows both. Arminius did not live to see his name carved into monuments or sung in victory halls. His life ended quietly, betrayed by his own people, long after the forest had fallen silent. Yet history did not forget him. Rome, the empire that ruled the world, never crossed the Rhine again. The border Arminius drew with blood and strategy remained for centuries. He proved that freedom could be defended not by numbers or wealth, but by understanding the enemy and believing in one's land and people. To Rome, he was a traitor who shattered imperial pride. To Germania, he was a shield against conquest. And to history, Arminius stands as a reminder that even the greatest empires can be stopped by one warrior who chose resistance over submission.